I was elected to represent you as my constituent and all the other constituents. I think I am by doing this. I'm doing what they sent me here to do.
But when you say we don't have the time to go to the people, even if you had the time, you wouldn't go to the people. You want these things to get passed now, and even if we had enough budget to last us until next year, you still wouldn't go to the people with these 9 proposals.
John, I don't know what I would do under those circumstances. What I know is we've got a crisis right now.
I need to grab something and run with it. I mean, the legal issues are interesting. There will be litigation challenging these tax increases based on their past hostility to Tabor. The court may well uphold the tax increases. But let's go back to
as a guy who's been through this mill, we spent 2 years fighting what I thought was a blatant violation of Tabor. This court's not going to go with you, is my guess.
Well, these are even more blatant, and it would get kind of lawyerly and technical to explain why this is a bigger shredding of Tabor than the school finance case was. But in any event, to say that basic state services are threatened, I think is just not reasonable. We've got this $19 billion budget. We're talking about $150 million a year in increases. That's real money in private sector salaries, but as part of the state budget, we could do a small across-the-board cut of all state divisions. The budget gets bigger and bigger every year. The state was hiring thousands of employees heading into a recession. If we're spending less money on roads, like Rollie points out, it's because someone is deciding to hire new employees and add new regulators and new university system employees and add to the state's payroll when we should have been prioritizing human services, roads, and some of those other things.
See, I don't want to get into the minutia of this, but if all these pass, we're talking about $150 million more a year into the budget.
Roughly.
But we've got a budget of about $19 billion. All right.
Roughly.
So this, while significant, is not a large percentage of the budget.
John, we're talking general fund dollars. We are not talking about dollars. Senator Mitchell's referring to the university budgets. The legislature has no control of whether professors are hired or not hired. We're talking
but
about
you have control over funding.
We're talking about general fund dollars, which we've already reduced to the tune of $2.1 billion. We're talking about having to reduce it further. It looks like with probably the March estimates, we're probably going to have to reduce another $300 million out of it. So it's a huge percentage of the general fund budget. And yes, $150 million is just another part of this. It's another part of this. If we didn't increase the revenue side of the budget, you know, we've got obviously a revenue and an expense side of the budget. We've cut expenses $2.1 billion. Now we're looking at how do we avoid cutting it by another 150 and by raising the revenue this much.
The state of Montana is facing a similar budget crunch. They've got a moderate, independent Democratic governor. I say independent-minded, a moderate Western Democrat, Brian Schweitzer, who looked at this challenge and didn't raise taxes, didn't hit industry and employers and working families. He is instituting a very small across-the-board cut in state government, which is what we should be doing here. Families are struggling, employers are struggling. These tax increases will hit specific industries, will cause layoffs, will make our problems worse.
John, let me just make a response to that. The state of Arizona right now is increasing taxes, not cutting exemptions, not cutting credits. They are increasing taxes by $1 billion. This is a Republican governor and a Republican legislature because they feel like I do, they've got a crisis. They don't want to devastate government. So here's a Republican legislature and a Republican governor who are raising taxes. They're not reducing exemptions and credits like we've done. They are raising taxes by increasing the sales tax by that much.
And here in Colorado, if you were to do that, I would hope you would agree you'd have to go to the vote of the people.
Yes.
All right. Let me challenge you on a couple of these things.
Sure.
Now, I can't remember each one of these tax breaks, but let me do it from my hat of worrying about corporate welfare. And a lot of these tax breaks came in when Republicans were in control of the state legislature, and a lot of them I disagreed with, partly because they triggered when Tabor refunds were going to be there. So in other words, instead of the refund going to those of us who pay taxes, it would first go to certain groups. My favorite, of course, is the tax deduction for the producers of bull semen. Now, that tells me that there are a lot of industries that are going down to where you guys work and saying, listen, we've got a lobbyist, the taxpayers don't. We make bull semen. I really don't want to know how they do it, but we need a tax break. So I look at this and I say, well, wait a second. This was not a tax break that I was really all that excited about to begin with. So let me ask you the question about the corporate welfare. Aren't some of these breaks, particularly the more recent ones, for this industry that has some pull and that industry that has some pull, what's wrong with pulling these back? Because when the economy comes back, that's going to be more general revenue that's going to be refunded to the general population. And when I run the next election against whatever Ref C 2.0 is going to be, instead of saying, well, you're only going to get $70 back, without saying, because the bull semen guys get money first, I'm going to get the money first. It's going to be easier for me to sell this job.
John, if you don't know where they get bull semen from, I guess we do need more money for high school remedial biology. But in any event,
Senator Mitchell, you weren't in the committee, but we had a lecture on where bull semen came from in the committee, John. So it was quite laughable.
Let me just say, I just don't want to see the bull pornography as they make the deposit. That's all I'm saying.
Excellent. You make several good points. Let me first take a deserved whack on behalf of Republicans that held the majority for years. We made our share of mistakes, and we shouldn't have been granting specific targeted tax breaks. We should have had a broad-based reduction in general taxes for all taxpayers. Here's the problem with trying to repeal some of those tax breaks now in the middle of a recession, with farm families struggling, with industrial output challenged, with people losing their jobs. It's already part of the economic picture. It's not like these are tax-free companies. They just have certain tax benefits, but they're already struggling at the margin, losing money, going bankrupt. Now is not the time to raise any of their taxes.
Don't we as conservatives say that type of economic manipulation, all right, this industry needs a little tweak here, you need a little subsidy there.
I agreed with you. We shouldn't have done it then, but we are
where we are now. So why not get rid of it
now? Because we're in the middle of a recession, people are losing their jobs, we're trying to help business recover, and we don't want to whack 3 or 4 or 5 companies along the way, or it's more than 3 or 4. Look, one of these taxes is an exemption on energy input into business operations. Manufacturing, data processing, you name it, they all pay for energy. Business doesn't pay a sales tax on inputs. Now we're going to charge them a sales tax on energy that they use. That's broad-based. That hits lots of people. If there's something specific like bull semen or like napkins and non-essential wrapping for fast food packages, we're raising the cost of a whole sector of business that's already struggling, that has a drop in demand, that is losing jobs and firing people, and we can't harmonize that tax policy now. What we can do is wait for the economy to recover and then harmonize the economy.
Now, without getting into my personal life, when I go out to buy a lot of bull semen this Friday night, I want that cost to be low. Tell me, aren't you going to hurt these companies? I mean, the senator here says these are companies in a recession. These are companies that are going to get hit by this during a recession. Yeah, it'll be better for you because your job will be a little easier. You'll have $150 million more to help balance things. But these companies are playing by the rules, and now they're going to have to pay more. It's going to hurt us.
John, we looked at in excess of $2 billion worth of exemptions. That's what this total that you just asked Senator Mitchell about. It totals $2 billion. That's been in effect from 1937 to now. We are dealing with, what's 150 of 4%, roughly 5% of all of these exemptions. Any one we picked, you could argue, is going to have some impact. And I would be hard-pressed to argue that. I'm a manufacturing guy. I mean, the energy bill that Senator Mitchell has talked about obviously is going to impact manufacturing.
Everything.
It's also going to impact agriculture. It's going to impact pretty much everything, but to a very minimal extent. So what we did is said, okay, here's the problem in front of us. We've hit all of these in terms of reducing the expense side of the equation. Is there a better way? Is there a way with minimal damage, not zero damage? I'm not going to sit here and argue that there's zero damage, but with minimal. Is it better in balancing this equation, retaining and creating jobs without devastating the economy? And I think we came up with a really good balance, one that I felt personally good enough about to carry all 9 bills in the Senate. These are all 9 bills of mine. In the House, they divvied them up. I had to sit with opposite Senator Mitchell 9 times on these and listen to his arguments. Somebody said, well, you got a lot of stamina. But anyway, I think it was easier. But the point being is John, what we trying to achieve was
because I have to go one new area.